Katie, and this is Tara, and we are Two Citizen Moms. We've been told we have a little bit of limited time, so we'll cut it short and to the point. You can find us under twocitizenmoms.com. Anything that we put out there, any information that you need, or any resources. We are citizens just like you, so our voice is ours. We represent the people, and no one micromanages anything that comes out of our mouth. So we don't edit. We don't have an edit button. Just wanted to tell you that we stand on the gospel of Jesus Christ. That is first and foremost this platform for us. So know that everything that comes from us, we stand on truth. The truth never changes. And that's one thing that we want to really stress in everything that we tell you today, because it will be a fire hose of information that we'd like to give all of our credit to our advocacy for PAVE. PAVE is People Advocating Vaccine Education. This is a medical freedom group, and that's what Tara and I are. We're medical freedom advocates. We've been doing this for many, many years. PAVE is Lisa Jelani, vaccineeducation.org. She is the one that prevented North Carolina citizens from losing their medical and religious exemptions in 2015. We all owe a lot of gratitude to people who have used them recently, but that would have prevented us from turning into California, New York, the states that have done that as well. We've been into this road right here. Most of us have been. Some have come a little later, depending on if it's affected you or not. We were out on the streets of reopening North Carolina from day one in March, when you were essential and you were not essential. That never resonated with us, and we knew that wasn't of God. It absolutely was a lie. We could not stand in that lie, and we have never complied. We've never put a mask on our face. We have never complied to absolutely any of the tyranny that has come down in this country, especially here in North Carolina. We no longer believe that there are three ways to break free from unconstitutional ways. That's what we used to walk around and basically do in our talks. We were speaking 3 or 4 times a week. In the beginning, we were founding members of a group called right? Yes. And we believe that the legislators were going to be on our side. We believe that the judicial system was going to be on our side, but they were not. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty of civil disobedience. We want to riddle you a little bit of what the Republicans have done for you and what they have not done to you.
Okay, so this is the hard part that nobody likes to hear. I'm a lifetime Republican. I was a kid that was taken at 11 years old to hear Ronald Reagan speak, so that's the background from which I come. I'm a homeschool mom, a constitutionalist, and like Mindy said, we understand freedom. 2 Corinthians 3:17 says, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. We're having a crisis of freedom in this country because we have denied God, so that's first and foremost. But at the end of the day, we thought there really would be 3 ways to break free from unconstitutional orders, and that was the presentation that we spoke about everywhere we went. The first was inside the judiciary. As most of you probably know who watch the news, there have been several cases inside North Carolina where citizens and groups have gone up against vax mandates, mask mandates, church shutdowns, etc. And with the exception of Cooper backing down when they tried to close the churches and it not even going to court, we're just getting wiped in court. So we don't hold out hope any longer that there will be any kind of judicial solution because we don't have the courts and we don't have the North Carolina Supreme Court. The second way was legislatively, and we fought really hard in that arena. We've worked hand in hand with almost all of your North Carolina legislators in both the House and the Senate to try to get House Bill 558 passed. How many of you have been affected by vaccine or mask mandates? So House Bill 558 was actually sponsored by PAVE and Lisa Jelani working collaboratively in the House. Who sponsored Larry Pittman, who saw what we have today coming, and we attempted to draft a comprehensive piece of legislation that would have prevented everything that we're living under right now. And what Tim Moore, our Republican speaker, did was he killed it. because the Republicans in the House are more interested in making their donors inside Big Pharma and the Western Industrial Medical Complex and the North Carolina Hospital Association happy than they are protecting your constitutional rights. So 558 was dead out of the gate, and on the day that we went down to advocate with close to 1,000 people at the General Assembly, we were handed a substitute, 572, by Mr. Keith Kidwell. Kidwell told us that this was going to be it because more was not going to have anything to do with 558.
And let me tell you, 558 was to protect you in the public and the private sector from exactly what you're facing down right now in your businesses and your jobs. And we also brought them at the same time with 558. We exposed with a whistleblower that worked with a contract company for the vaccine passports, the ID cards. They knew it months before this happened, and we went public with it with 558. And none of your Republicans, none of them stood up for you. Not one of them, for any of us. And they knew we had the actual documents.
So, at the end of the day, our Republicans and our Democrats alike knew that North Carolina was going to be having a vaccine passport system that was being developed by NCDHHS and a private consulting firm. So, 558 attempted to stop that because the cards were on the table. They didn't want any part of it, and at the end of the day, it was because it was being propped up really from those inside both the Democrat and the Republican Party. So Moore killed it, and we were handed 572. 572 was nowhere near comprehensive, but they told us that if we could get it crossed over from the House to the Senate, we could get amendments in the Senate.
So we got everybody behind it, and we got it out of the House, and we got it over to the Senate. We get it to the Senate, and we put an amendment on it, because they said they would not interfere with you on your private sector, because we are Republicans, and we don't want to tell you what you can or can't do with your employees. Just like Kidwell says, it's no different than you having to put on a tie. Well, I have to say that sterilization and experimenting on you is a lot different than telling you if you need to wear a tie. And he actually said it over and over and over to us. So Kidwell is not your friend for a lot of people who think he's a patriot.
So just a few weeks ago, we were told that 572 is dead in committee in the House, and vaccine mandates, vaccine task force, and masks are here to stay. And on the note of the masks, how many of you believe that it was Cooper who masked us?
Raise a hand.
Okay, yeah, it wasn't. It was your friendly Republicans in the House who suspended Senate who actually passed 232. So if you're curious about what that looked like, we had an anti-mask law in the state of North Carolina that was in play for 50, 60 years. So when Cooper put the mask mandate in, he couldn't overcome the anti-mask law. The only way that he could actually mask us was to get the Republicans in the North Carolina General Assembly to suspend the state's anti-mask law. So guess what they did? They worked collaboratively with Cooper to do that. We went back after we found out what they did, and we said, when are you going to lift the suspension? And they said, oh, we kind of overlooked what we were doing there, and it was actually a full repeal, so masks are permanent. They then turned around and passed House Bill 1043. Anybody read that puppy? That one implemented permanent testing, tracking, tracing, and communist public health policy in the state of North Carolina. Also, that one is here to stay. There was no sunset on that bill. Guess how that passed? Unanimously, with our Republicans and Democrats working collaboratively with Cooper to make sure that communism is the new norm in North Carolina. So, is there hope? That's the question. Everything we've said so far is really depressing, right? Really bad stuff. So, when we did our presentation, 3 weeks break free from unconstitutional orders, we said, listen, we're going to do everything we can legislatively, we're going to do everything we can judicially. But the third one we always held back on was civil disobedience. So let me tell you, civil disobedience is the only way out of this. You cannot comply your way out of tyranny. These legislators are self-preserving. They have no interest but self-interest. They need their resignation. Besides primaries, every single last one of them, we need their resignations because they've done nothing in this state to stand for the people. Everything stands on our
body autonomy and our God-given right to decide. All of our rights, all of our freedoms are derived from our body autonomy and our God-given innate systems, right? Stand above our medical freedoms to choose, is what I'm trying to say. Our medical freedoms to choose what we do with our body. If we lose this foundation, we lose everything. Because it doesn't matter what CRT is in your schools. It doesn't matter if you can go vote or what's going on with the election. If you do not have control over what they're doing right now medically with your body, the foundation of all of this is your medical freedom.
So people, I find the Convention of States before anybody even knew what it was back in the day, because as a homeschool mom, you're really interested in freedom, typically. But that said, when we were asked to speak by some of the Convention of States people who we always see right here down in the legislature, so, shout out for the work you've done there. We know that you've been working more as well. We started saying, to you guys and to the election integrity group and to the parents that were working to get CRT out of their schools, what good does it do for you guys to pass the Convention of States if you can't send your delegates to the convention because they can't get in without a vaccine passport?
They've already done this in California. When they went to vote, they said if you don't have your vaccine card, you can't come in the building. They were drive-throughs. What do you think a drive-through ballot is going to be marked? You're unvaxxed. Just like what we're seeing with the medical discrimination going on right now in the killing fields, which we are calling now, the hospitals. They didn't let you in the door. They still won't let you have elective surgeries without masking or testing, and they're not treating people that are vaccinated and unvaccinated the same. We already have whistleblowers that have come to us saying there are doctors and nurses that are literally stating that they will not even go down and help somebody that's ringing their call bell because they're unvaccinated. And do you think your vote is going to matter if you're unvaccinated? The foundation of all of this is to stop complying, and we have got to take the masks off. We have to stop complying. It is the will of the people that does this. The legislators are not going to do it for us. The courts are not going to do it. We have got to go in the communities and educate. Knowledge is power. We have to take every one of these rooms and duplicate yourself. We have the resources, we have the information, we have flyers. We need to take them to the parking lots and put them on every single car. They are censoring every bit of the truth to even get to therapeutics, to understand when you start to get sick, how to get your body well. Beat it. Don't go to a hospital. Their protocol is the CDC and the FDA protocol. Remdesivir is a 50%. It's like putting a bullet in the chamber and loading it and spinning it and deciding if you're going to walk out. We have been in the last 4 weeks dealing with every single major medical facility across the state. One has walked out and they refused remdesivir and they refused the ventilator. Every one of them has left in body bags. They were in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 70s. It doesn't matter. They will not give you any nutrition or anything that is penny on the dollar. And remdesivir in 2020 of October is when that came out of EUA. It is an experimental drug that they just passed. And everybody knows the Biden regime is locked up with the FDA because what did he do? He told everybody the boosters were coming out before Pfizer even had applied for licensure. That just put the cat right out of the bag. It showed the American people who were paying attention, the FDA and the Biden regime were already in cahoots. That's why 2 scientists put in that they were leaving. Not that they won't be replaced with more leftists or go over to work for Pfizer, but they did have 2 30-some-odd-year resident scientists from the FDA step down after the Biden regime made that notification with the FDA.
So just to hang out a couple more minutes on the vaccine. Inside conservative circles, almost all of us claim to be pro-life. Raise your hand in this room if you are pro-life, if you believe that life is derived from God from cradle to the grave. How many of you also know that all 3 vaccines, Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J, are either abortion-derived or abortion-developed? Okay? Wildly problematic for those of us who are pro-life. The same thing is true of most childhood vaccines. And 9 out of 11 childhood vaccines are also abortion-derived. Please begin to do your research.
Know the lie of what vaccines.
Know the lie of what vaccines are. And so there are two places very quickly you can get to this. One is Children of God for Life. It is a website that follows all of the fetal cell lines, not just through the Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J vaccines, but the childhood vaccines. Begin to challenge your representative at the North Carolina General Assembly who claim to be pro-life. If you say you are pro-life, why are you pro-vaccine choice? When did we begin to be a nation where we stood on a platform and said, I absolutely choose to believe that it is okay to use products that were made from the parts of dead babies? We can no longer continue to call ourselves pro-life Christians and be on the right side of history if we are going to benefit from the killing of children. And we have been told more times than one, you girls cannot say these things in Republican circles.
Divisive. You'll split the party. Are you kidding me? You stand on the truth. It does not matter how uncomfortable it makes you. You stand in the truth. You get out of the lie. I don't care how divisive it is. We need to start standing for truth in this country.
And we are first and foremost Christians. We are patriots. We believe truth is the patriot and the Christian sacred duty. Get out of your home. Start to speak the truth. Speak it in the churches. Speak it to your legislators. Don't back down. Don't put on the mask. Masks make you 13 times more likely to get and spread coronaviruses. They make you much more likely to develop staph and bacterial infections. God never intended for us to be masked and for our immune systems in any way, shape, or form to have to combat the detriment of a mask.
We're image bearers as well.
In the vaccine, we have more. How many of you are familiar with the website openbears.com? Are you tracking the best? This is the most lethal vaccine program in human history.
All vaccines.
We have lost more people to this vaccine than all vaccines combined in the last 30 years. This is a genocide program. It must be stopped. People must begin telling the truth. Is it uncomfortable? Yes. Is it hard to go out to your friends and loved ones and share this message? Yes. Is it necessary? Yes. We are commanded by God to stand on the truth, to be unapologetic about the truth, and to save lives. So we are asking each and every one of you, as you are interacting with your legislators and those that are going to primary your legislators, what are you doing to tell the truth about the truth? We've been told
Risk your reputation, risk your fortunes, your job, risk your life. That's what our founding fathers did. That's what I will do. I will never bend the knee to this. I only bend to the cross. I will never comply. Never.
Two questions. Does anybody have? Yeah, go ahead.
Which hospital in North Carolina is not complying with the COVID treatment protocol?
There is not one.
Not one.
There was one, but as of 2 weeks ago, that was succumbed. What is happening is that any hospital that takes Medicare or Medicaid funds, which is almost all of them, because North Carolina doesn't have not-for-profit hospitals like some of the systems in Florida. If you take government money, you are not allowed via Mandy Cohen and the NCCHHS to treat anyone in a COVID critical care unit outside of CDC or NIH protocol, which adds to the fact they're killing fields. I mean, we have doctors and nurses calling us every single day and saying, you need to spread this message, okay? Early intervention, multi-drug therapy. Everyone in here has heard the words ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, right? Okay, if you cannot get a hold of, if you get sick, we'll just do this real quick. Are we killing the time? All right, we're going to do this real quick. First of all, TwoCitizenMoms.com, we are connected with a network of the good guy doctors, and most of them are good girl doctors, if you wanted to call it, from one end of North Carolina to the other. You get sick, go to Two Citizen Moms, we're getting ready to load a resource page to connect you. The most significant thing you can do for your health is stop eating processed food, stop going through the drive-thru, get off the American diet, and eat the foods God made, okay? There's number one. But if you can't do that, Start taking 5,000 international units a day of vitamin D. We are the most vitamin D, it has to have K2 as a companion, get a good D with K, start getting that in your body. Every cell in your body needs vitamin D. We can talk all the chemistry all day long.
Quercetin is also like a hydroxychloroquine. It's the ionophore that makes it pierce into the cell. So you need quercetin or ECGC and zinc, which is one of the two. Quercetin or green tea extract, which is ECGC. It is on our resource page. We give guidance for that. But those are just very simple supplements that will help you fight things that your body, if you are, comorbidity is obesity. So if you have a comorbidity, if you have obesity, that is a comorbidity. And if you also are diabetic, if you start to get symptoms in a couple of days, start the regimen. That's all. That's just common sense right now. We're dealing with somebody right now that waited 10 days into it. And then when you get into a hospital, they lock you up and you have no access to any of your advocates. And they will do what they are lockstep told to do by the CDC, FDA, and NIH protocol.
So to come back to your question, every single hospital system in North Carolina is using only NIH and CDC protocols, which are lethal. So that said, you must stay out of hospitals. We are having critical care doctors and nurses who've been fired from their jobs because they won't take the vaccine. And so they literally are telling us to beg people, do not go to the hospital. We have to have outside the hospital early intervention therapy and start taking the immune support therapies. And they're also begging us to beg you, don't wear the mask. The mask is making people sick.
It's suppressing your immune system. But with all of that said, we have doctors that have left the system, nurses, and all of the above. They are creating systems outside of the system. We've got the telehealth. A couple of dozen emergency room doctors that are creating more facilities out in the Charlotte area. We've got some going on in Winston-Salem. We know of the group last night, there's doctors just looking all over.
But on that note, you're going to need to advocate with your NCGA because the state is going to try to crush these doctors for going against NIH and CDC protocols. And you've got an NCGA that is Republican majority, North Carolina General Assembly, that is Republican majority both the House and the Senate. And they are working with Big Pharma and the North Carolina Hospital Association and the Western Industrial Medical Complex to see you dead in hospitals.
Every one of them on the health committee needs to go. Joyce Promick was in a meeting last night. She said she didn't even know who we were in 572. We had a lobbyist working and paying for her. She knows exactly who we are. She knew exactly what we needed, and she took 572 and did nothing with it. We talked to everybody we could. We had even some crossovers from the Democrats that would go with 572 with amendments. Now let me stress, it had to have the amendment because it wasn't worth toilet paper. Toilet paper was worth more than what it was when Kidwell put it up to 572. When we got a hold of it, we took what we had from 558 on the private sector end and dropped that, and we added and made it even better for the public sector.
So all of that said, you have your Republicans to thank for the testing, tracking, tracing, passports, vaccine mandates, and terminate or vaccinate. We are so sick and tired of hearing people say this was all Cooper. This was not Cooper. You live in a house with a the House and the Senate have a Republican majority. When we finally got on the inside and we said, we understand Tim Moore killed 558 because he was working with big tech, he thought off whatever. Why did 572 die in the House? Do you want to know the answer? Y'all want to know why the Republicans killed 572 in the House? Yeah, this is what we heard. They ran the polls and as many Republicans wanted the passports and the mandates as didn't want them, so they went ahead and let the bill die in committee. So guess what? Communism. That's what we're left with now in North Carolina. And the only solution is going to be we the people. Freedom is your birthright. Don't ever forget it. So what we're doing, or with their Republicans, we couldn't even get them to have the hearings for us, so we will have them in 2 weeks. And do not let them tell you, veto, 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 we didn't have supermajority, we couldn't do it. We established relationships with Democrats on the other side who remember Pharma, they wanted to work with the Hospital Alliance, they wanted to work with Big Tech. So do not let them tell you they didn't have the votes. We were gonna give them the votes.
There you go.
One question. What do you think of monoclonal antibodies?
Monoclonal antibodies are a bittersweet deal. They're highly effective, they have to be done in the first 10 days. If you get into an emergency room situation and you want them, you cannot be more than 10 days after the symptoms. You cannot get them outside the emergency department. Once you're admitted, it is literally remdesivir and a ventilator and you're dead, okay? So, that said, they're also abortion derived. HEK293. HEK3 is for human embryonic kidney cell. So for us as Christians, not an option. But if you do not have an ethical, if you don't have an ethical conflict, they are highly successful. I do not necessarily.
Laboratory derived.
It is lab derived. Yeah, and we don't have any evidence to suggest that they are more effective than ivermectin, which is an honest word, it feeds into your cells to mess up the replication of this virus.
IV therapies where you can get on the vitamin C, vitamin D, and you can get that by IV as well. That is very effective just the same.
Yeah, we gotta wrap up.
One more question. Countries around the world produce ivermectin, very good results.
And so are our Congress. 1 to 200 of them just came out and put a doctor.
With the CDC and our government, hospital officials, they just use protocols that are not good.
Right.
At what point in time does criminal liability become a question?
No.
When we the people write up in the
They don't
mandate.
know it, and they have to do